This is Matt Russell, and welcome to the DailyFX Forum.
Hello and welcome to the DailyFX Forum Highlights video for December 11th. Just scrolling through the forums tonight here actually on the chart patterns thread, some posts that I wanted to highlight. First by Dec11, might want to think twice about that. And he's quoting here, I don't know if he's quoting from a book, it's important to establish the existence of a prior downtrend for this to be a reversal pattern. Without a prior downtrend to reverse, there cannot be a head and shoulders bottom formation. Now I understand the logic there, it is perfect logic in terms of forming a textbook head and shoulder bottom formation, but we have to always remember that traders can be trading on different scales, different time frames, so you can obviously have a head and shoulder pattern at any time frame. It might not signify a huge reversal, multi-year reversal in a pair, but certainly there could be trading opportunities based on head and shoulder patterns and inverted head and shoulder patterns across different scales. And here's another post by Dec11 actually showing what he was speaking about on the Aussie dollar here on the daily chart of a head and shoulder pattern. Now I wanted to go ahead and highlight one of the things that I love about head and shoulder patterns, and it's not that they're so reliable, but they can generate extremely favorable risk-to-reward ratios. The reason is, in my experience, what I often notice is that the right shoulder, if that level is going to hold, it usually holds within a few pips, and so that means we can place a relatively tight stop, compared to other chart patterns where maybe we don't have the same level of precision that we would have in a head and shoulder, and in this case, an inverted head and shoulder pattern. Now, this is a trade actually that I, for my nightly videos, and I wanted to highlight it because it is a losing trade, and that's always how we learn the most in terms of trading experience. And this is a trade setup that I was waiting for about, I would say, about 2 weeks for prices to come down and actually form the right hand shoulder here. And we could see that prices came down. This price point is about 60.73 where this line is, and I was mentioning to enter at about 60.90 with a stop at 60.40. And we could see the penetration there to the downside. Now that this happened, I would just run away from this trade idea because it didn't hold within a few pips as it typically does in a head and shoulder pattern or inverted head and shoulder pattern. And so that's one of the things I wanted to highlight tonight is the precision that we can have, because I placed a trade here with a 50 pip stop, and obviously if that line did hold, there could be a few hundred pips on the upside here. And again, that's the main benefit of these patterns. And another pattern I like, for example, with candlesticks is the doji, because the same logic sort of applies with a high of a doji candle or the low of a doji candle. You can base your stop on that high or on that low, and it gives you a relative sense of precision. Again, my name is Matt Russell. Thanks for listening, and please stay tuned for a preview of the DailyFX. I want to take this opportunity to formally welcome you all to the DailyFX forums. I want to go through the process of how I personally access the forums and how maybe you at home, if you want to access the forums in the future, might do so. The first thing you would do is go to www.dailyfx.com, and that will bring up, obviously, dailyfx.com, and usually there on the upper right hand corner I'll go ahead and click on where it says forum, and that will bring up the first page of the forums. And this view, I personally don't use this view, but this view actually shows you the most recent posts on all the threads within the different sections and a little detail about those posts, so you can read through and see if there's something catches your interest. But personally, I go ahead and just click on forums and view them in the more traditional sense. Now, these are different threads within the forum. There's a section on education, such as DailyFX course instructor tips, which would be good for newer traders, and then for more advanced traders. And I just want to go ahead, personally, the way I use the forums is I would go through the individual threads, just looking for trade ideas, maybe looking at charts, looking at certain lines that maybe I didn't put up on my chart, but another trader might have put up on their chart. I tend to, shy away from using direct trade recommendations from other forum members, but it helps me to sort of even out my analysis, make sure that I'm seeing things, with the right mind in terms of, I might be missing stuff that other traders can see, and that's my personal way of using the forum. Every trader is going to be a little bit different in how they use it. So if you want to ask questions, if you want to become an active participant of the members, you would have to go ahead and register. So that's what I'm going to go through now, is the registration process. So assuming you're brand new to the forums, or maybe you've been here a few times and you're not really sure how it works, so I just want to walk through again the registration process. This would be the front page where you would access, or the previous page. You'd have the same little box here on the left-hand side. My username and password are already filled out here, but assuming you're a new member, you would click on where it says register, and that will bring up the registration page. If you give me one moment here while my browser loads. And actually first we're going to have some terms of service and DailyFX forum rules. I do suggest reading through the forum rules. Obviously, profanity and spam and things like that are not allowed, but it also gives you insight on how to use the forum and how different traders can use it in terms of their individual needs. So you would go down to the bottom there, you'd click on where it says I have read all the rules, and then you would go ahead to the register the formal registration page, and that will bring up here. And you can go ahead and select the username, and how about we'll use 4x, and that name is already in use, so maybe add a few more x's there. Again, it really, your individual username is up to you, and you go ahead and fill in your password, your email address. Now, the most difficult aspect of registration for the DailyFX forums will be figuring out these letters in the box here. Now, I'm a semi-intelligent person, but I have a very difficult time figuring out which letters and numbers to use. Now, there is a reason for this madness. It helps with security, but I would suggest just going ahead and keep on clicking that refresh image until something comes through that you can actually identify and see. Then you can go ahead and enter your birthday, but you can decide whether or not to display that to other forum members. And then also, if you were referred by somebody, you can enter that information there. The time zone, that should default to your computer, but you should double check and make sure. And then you can opt in, and I would suggest opting in for these emails if the administrators want to go ahead and send you some notices about the forum, and then you would complete registration. Now what happens is they would send you an email to the email address that you put up here, and that email will include a link, and all you would have to do is go ahead and click on that link, and that link will bring you inside the forum, and you would now be a member of the DailyFX forums. Again, this is Matt Russell. Thanks for listening.